All right, going to call this meeting of the Union County Land Use Board Tuesday, May 20th to order. First item is to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Mr. Tillis, open in prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight. Pray, Lord, you'll guide our decisions. Pray you'll bless all the folks that's come here tonight. Pray, Lord, you'll give us all a safe passage back home. Pray you'll bless our troops and watch after our county. We ask this, Lord, in your name. Amen.
Amen. Next, to establish our voting members, we do have two members, regular members absent, so both our alternates will be voting members tonight. Additions or deletions? Are there any additions? Hearing none, any deletions? Hearing none, we will ask for approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is approval of the March 18th, 2025 minutes. Everyone have a chance to look at those? So if we can have a motion.
Make a motion we approve the March 18th minutes.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the April 8th special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Motion, do I have a second? I have a second for Mr. Austin. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item is conditional rezoning, 2025 CZ-002 Gordon case. Bjorn, if you would talk to us about that.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a conditional rezoning request called the Gordon rezoning for the last name of the owner and applicant. It's to rezone a 2.65 acre portion of a parcel in the Jackson Township from RA40 to light industrial with conditions. There's a site plan associated with it. This portion will be split out from the parcel, and it can meet all requirements of the development ordinance, and is requesting 5-year vesting of development rights. This is the property. You're along Mary Elizabeth Church Road, south of Waxhaw. The parcel is actually kind of like a horseshoe. The remainder is over here to the north. This portion right here is what would get split out. It would be to allow storage for auto repair vehicles that are in the process of being worked on. There's also the potential of a building in the future on the site. This would be on well and septic. See a septic field back here. Property line would be right there where it would be split out, so the remainder would stay with the residential property. So this is the existing site. Portion's already in use. This is related to a code enforcement action, so this is to bring it in compliance to address that issue. You can see north and south of the site, rural residential. There's actually an existing legal non-conforming auto repair operation that's associated with this. That's across the roads. This would allow them the space to store vehicles associated with that. In terms of development status, you can see fair number of large lot residential up and down Mary Elizabeth Church Road. In terms of environmental features, you do have a couple man-made ponds that are on the site. One of them would be used for stormwater control, so that this would drain to it to deal with the storm events. Creek to the northwest, otherwise there's no streams or floodplain on the site itself. In terms of zoning, it's all RA40. In terms of transportation, there's no count on Mary Elizabeth Church Road. Potter to the west, about 1,300 cars a day. Tom Starnes, about 1,200 cars a day. Mary Elizabeth Church is in all likelihood very similar to that. There's no funded road projects in the vicinity of this project. And the land use map is similar to the zoning. rural residential. RA 40 is consistent with that. Because it's commercial, public schools were not consulted for comments. Public water and sewer are not available, so this would be on well and septic, so there are no comments from Union County Water on this proposal. Public feedback community meeting was held in late April. There was one attendee. Had concerns over possible future uses due to the light industrial zoning, explained how conditional zoning worked and that they'd be limited to the site plan. They were happy with the comments and no changes were made based on that. We have received feedback from one nearby resident with concerns over impact and appearance of the property and impact on selling their home in the future. In terms of municipal feedback, Waxhaw was not consulted due to the distance to their municipal limits. So in terms of negatives and positives, the negatives that this is identified as rural residential. This is a light industrial proposed use, not consistent with that recommendation. Potential for future additional rezonings once you get enough of a certain land use in an area, makes it easier to justify additional uses that may not be consistent with the plan. And it's to correct a zoning violation, and the proposed use is actually a good bit larger than the legal non-conforming portion of the business. I want to make that point that the existing use that was on there that was less than an acre had been in existence long enough that it's allowed to continue regardless of any rezoning action. Positives are that this does help a legal non-conforming business across the street from this location. It's already been in operation and traffic is not significant in the area, so this isn't going to make things worse. It would increase business opportunities in Union County because it helps a Union County resident with their existing business, and it can meet our development standards. But the negatives we feel outweigh the positives, so we recommend denial, and you are scheduled to take action tonight, and then it'll go to the Board of Commissioners in June. So the applicant is here. I don't know if anyone has signed up to speak about this specific one or not. They have, okay. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, the applicant is available as well.
How long has this, I'm sorry, how long has this been a business? You said a long time.
It's certainly been in existence longer than 7 years. Adam, how long has this been in existence?
2013 is the backlog for invoices that we've kept up.
All right. Is there any limit on storage of vehicles? In other words, years ago, I approved a very similar project, and it ended up as a real problem because there had so many vehicles stored there. So we ended up with an action.
Well, this aerial is from a couple years ago, and this was when the business was operating with the full expansion that caused the zoning violation. Someone called in a complaint. So this, I think, is representative of the full use that's possible. You have the site plan, which allows this whole area to be cleared and gravelled and a small building to be installed. And so I think that the aerial probably looks worse because it wasn't gravelled at the time.
But can you zoom in on that aerial?
Could I zoom in on it? How do I zoom in through this? Let's see what happens. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. Does that help?
Well, the aerial don't look as bad as the one you have from the road. Because you see a lot of them setting back off the road.
This is a lot larger area of disturbance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. The area that's currently being used is pretty much just this area here.
Correct, yes, sir.
Obviously, off over to the right over there, a few hundred yards.
Yes.
And then what's the, looks like two buildings, structures, just up there in the curve on the right there.
That's a church. I haven't received any, just from a resident in the area.
And I'll just mention, since I travel Mary Elizabeth every time I come and go to Monroe, the picture we have here, the site's showing that. When you pass the entrance, that's practically the only time you can see what's back there. So, you know, it's, I would not say it's unsightly.
So basically, the number of vehicles that can be stored there is just what fits on the gravelled area?
That's right.
Any further questions for Bjorn?
Yeah, the slide you had up where you had the negatives and positives. Yeah, that third negative, explain that a little more. I didn't understand that.
Well, it's saying that the zoning violation was for what you saw in the aerial, which is, you know, a couple acres worth of disturbance. What had been occurring up until a few years ago, a couple years ago, was much smaller. It was only approximately a half acre. So this light industrial is 2.5 acres in size, 2.6, and yet the original legal nonconforming was only a half acre. So it's 5 times as large as what historically had been going on the site.
So what?
We're just saying that it's an expansion beyond what he'd be allowed to do with the legal nonconforming portion.
And to me, this is, again, just, I think I've said before, I think we've accumulated way too many rules, and we need to get a lot of them so we're not spending our time on such as this.
Any other questions? Yeah, I'm just asking for him. Okay.
I got one more question. So what you're saying is the picture we're seeing is only a portion of what's being asked for, correct?
Yes, the current uses that are on site have been pulled back to the legal nonconforming portion, which is just the fraction. If it gets approved, if the rezoning is approved, the owner can implement according to the site plan, which would allow essentially all this area to be reused as vehicle storage, so it'd be
Okay,
bigger.
but will it also involve the area in the back where the trees and around the pond?
Back here?
Yes.
No, that would be kept in the residential portion, so it would not change.
So this whole plot that we're looking at with the pond and all on it, how many acres is that?
I mean, this portion?
Yes.
I mean, the overall site is 8.5 acres, so I'd say that's probably 5.5. And the portion that's
Oh, no,
asked,
I was asking the whole plot.
The whole-
8.5. you
yeah, the whole
said.
thing is 8.46.
All right. And so basically what we see in light or white, I'll call it, sandy looking there
Yes,
is what he's wanting.
plus the associated buffers and setbacks and whatnot. So it's bigger than that, but not a lot.
I'm so sorry, I thought I had muted it.
All right.
Anything else for Bjorn? All right. All right. If the owner would come up, if you have anything to share?
Thank you for your time. I'm not a public speaker. I'm pretty nervous, so if I fall over, I'll get back up in a minute. I know that Michelle isn't happy, and I get it. You know, the picture shows a very bad picture. I live in the house next door. I visit the church a lot. I don't want to see it either. So my site plan is to implement some kind of and again, I'd reach out to the Forest Service and get their recommendation, but some kind of natural buffer. I feel that's less invasive than some tall fence that would be green year-round. We're busy. I don't foresee us being so busy that I can't keep everything kind of in a centralized, away from, out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to see it either. I'm the house 2 doors down. You know, I mean, unfortunately, this is where I make my money. I do need the additional storage sometimes. It's not all the time. If you come right now, we're pretty well called up. Our schedule's doing good, but, you know, just unfortunately, we can't ever plan for things to break, and when they do, sometimes I need the extra storage. So again, the big picture for me is to make others happy. I don't want to see it either. I get it. It's a sight. And so this was my hope to make everybody happy.
Well,
And
your
hide
shop
that
is
site.
straight across the road, right?
I'm sorry, tell me again.
The shop that you do the work, it's across the road, correct?
It is, yes, sir.
And so is that up there beside of your house, or is all that the shop?
The shop is at my parents' house I grew up in. I live in the house directly across from the church.
Okay. And so somebody lives in between there.
Yes, that, actually, originally that entire parcel was mine. I built that original house, 2015. My wife is pregnant now with our 5th, so we had to build the bigger house. So we sold that little house and built on. And currently, I think the house in the center is getting ready to go back up for sale.
Who's right across the road from, looks like your lot there, who's that right across the road in the woods there?
Directly across the road from my house is the church, and then to the left or above this picture would be the Willises. I mean, they're,
So across the road is your parents.
sorry, yeah, across the road where the shop is my parents, yes.
In the woods there,
Yeah. And so when you
Can I
go,
touch this? Right here.
right there, who is that?
That's my parents, this is their house, and this is our shop.
Okay. So you work on it over there and you store across the road?
Right, yes, sir. We have a little bit of storage. Again, where'd that mouse go? I broke it. We have a little bit of storage right here. But yes, this would be needed for overflow. Larger vehicles, I can't just park on the side of the driveway in this small overflow lot that we have. So yes, the storage across the street, yes, sir.
and again, as I mean, now that you're looking at the aerial view, you can see the shop is surrounded by woods. So again, it's hard to tell what's going on when you pass by there. It's because it's surrounded by trees.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I don't want to see it either. I understand, just like the shop, it's set back off the road. We don't want to create an issue for neighbors or be an eyesore. You know, want to put a good buffer that stays green year round, and keep it, you know, out of sight, out of mind is my goal. And again, I wanted one more thing that this is irrelevant. Previously, there were pines. My great uncle planted loblolly pines 30 years ago. That we didn't clear the site for this reason. The pines got infested with beetles. Forest Service agent came out and looked and said, "You're getting ready to lose all these." He recommended have them cut. He lined that up for me. They cleared them. At that same time, we were starting the grading on the new house, and so while the grader was there, it made sense to have him stump that land and clean up what the tree man left behind. And we just started using it. We needed it. We didn't realize we needed how big of an asset it was until then. But that land wasn't cleared for that purpose. It came to light as a result of the beetles, yes.
I have a question. You're asking for close to 3 acres, right?
I think so.
Yeah, approximately that.
Did you see me looking
Well,
for answers?
what's the chances of, in the future, you gonna be wanting to build your shop over there and work it all on one side of the road?
It's in the site plan. It was recommended that if that did come to light, that be a chance of a shop being built beside the existing structure and just moving the business across the street. I would like to think that my parents have lots of years left in them and that we can continue to operate like we are without having to move it, but for some reason, if they need to sell or pass, I would like the opportunity to be able to continue the family business, but, not be locked into keeping a house hostage with a shop across the street, if that makes any sense. So I did put the proposal of, in the future, potentially putting a small shop, and again, I mean, our current shop's 40 by 40. I think I proposed a 40 by 60, if I remember right. Not a huge shop, just enough to continue to operate like we are now. And again, I hope that doesn't come to light. That was just a heaven forbid, hope not.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Gordon? Anyone? All right, thank you, sir. All right, I have two folks who've signed up to speak. Michelle Brunette, you're first.
Yes, sir.
If you could come up. Again, this is a 3-minute,
All right.
Mr. Tilly has a clock and he will watch you. And
I've read it 3 times. I'm under 3 minutes.
Okay, all right.
And I am loud, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I am Michelle Brunette, and I purchased the 13-acre parcel on the Potter Road side of Mr. Gordon in 2002. And I have lived there since then. That would be below him on the map you're looking at. Last year, I attempted to sell 5 acres beside Mr. Gordon's property. We had a lot of interest, but according to my realtor, the first question was always, what is that next door? Several prospects even lowballed based on the adjacent property. No one wants to live next door to a junkyard. It's highly visible, even from the 7200 block of Potter Road, which is a quarter mile away. So this is not a matter of, you may not see it from Mary Elizabeth Church Road, but you surely see it from Potter Road. This is especially when the trees aren't in full leaf. My parcel, again, which is below, is currently fully wooded, but if it was ever cleared, you would see the Gordon property for a very long stretch of Potter Road. It is incredibly visible from that direction. I looked into zoning last year and was told it was grandfathered to use a half-acre for overflow parking for the family business across the road. It's my understanding that the grandfather clause is reserved for uses prior to current zoning. This area was all RA in 2002, and although the family business across the road from Mr. Gordon's property was in operation at that time, he did not begin using that parcel for storage until 2019 or later, when he built his second and larger home. And although Mr. Gordon has cleaned it up recently, he never really complied with the half-acre provision. This was a real big deal. It's one of the reasons it was so visible from Potter Road. Even with an 8-foot fence, you're still going to see it. So 5 times the storage, that 5 times the size is going to mean 5 times the storage. Tankers, he's had tankers over there recently, refrigerator trucks, box trucks, and right now there are pallets of hazardous materials sitting beside the storage shed, like 2 big pallets, still in wrappers. Because of its proximity to Cane Creek, the area is ideal for horse and estate properties, and it seems counterproductive to depress property values in the area so that one person, one man, can operate a business that rightfully belongs in an industrial area.
All right, your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next person is Deborah Willis.
Mr. Chairman and board members, thank you for allowing us to speak. I was the one member that attended the meeting in Jackson Station, and at that time I had no problem with this. The Gordons are good people, they're good neighbors, they're trying to make a living, and we all know how hard that can be. My concern, I was the one with the hang-up on industrial and what that means. If he's been grandfathered the permission to use this lot as he is, I think that should suffice. But if we change that to industrial, what does that mean? Does that mean another junkyard? Does that mean, heaven forbid, and I expressed this to Adam, if he did have to sell, that zoning would pass on to a new owner, even though there are conditions can be removed. And we're a residential area. We have the 10 acres on the other side of Mr. Gordon's new house. We've put a lot of pride into our home and our ownership and love the community because it is a quiet residential area. At the current time, we don't have a lot of impact from Mr. Gordon's business. We don't hear a lot. We don't see that, but my concern is future. If we change this to industrial, will there be hazardous waste? How much hazardous waste is allowed to be there? And what impact will that have on our water system? Because right now, there is so much construction in that area that is impacting that water table. What would that do in the future? That's my concern. I don't want to prohibit anybody from making a living. Like I said, it's hard enough. But I was the one at the meeting that initially said, okay, but I do have concerns with the industrial classification, rezoning that to industrial when everything else there is residential. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Okay.
This has created a few more questions for me.
Who to?
The,
The owner?
yeah, no, you.
Yeah, the owner.
Yes, sir.
What is this hazardous waste?
They're barrels of resin, and the best way to describe it is it's almost like a Bondo that needs an activator, and because they're in drums on pallets, all 4 drums on the pallet is a couple of pounds shy of what they recommend hazardous material, but for shipping, they have to put a bill of lading with it and a hazardous sign on it. Nothing becomes hazardous about it until it's mixed with its reactor, and then it becomes a Bondo.
So is your business basically a body shop?
No, sir, we do primarily mechanic work. However, we do use this resin base for a felt tube that we do some repairs with. Almost like a Bondo type, like put a patch on the inside refrigerator unit to keep the insulation value up. It's kind of like a self-expanding.
So you're talking like a refrigerated trailer?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right, so you've really basically branching out to do work on trucks and or trailers and stuff like that, correct?
Our primary is personal individual vehicles. However, we do refrigerator units for a small fleet. We do a couple commercial vehicles that belong to that fleet. The majority of their fleet is small F-Series, pickup trucks, but they do have a straight box truck, larger truck, not a tractor trailer, but a large box truck that would be it's a Class B type truck, a
So
commercial
you don't bring
vehicle.
tractor trailers in there?
No, sir, no, we do. She mentioned a tanker. I do have a local man, he hauls water with his tanker to fill up pools, and he's having brake issues. I told him I would fix it. So I do currently, I actually had his tanker last week to fix some brakes on his trailer, yes.
Okay, so if you were allowed to go through with this, and then you later on built your shop across the road, you built a reputation now with the local trucking people. I own a trucking company, I know, and good people's hard to find. Now we're having a potential chance of you putting a lot of truck traffic on roads that weren't designed for that.
Right.
I mean, most of these roads I'm looking at were dirt roads, and then they come and put tar and gravel on them, and then your heavy truck traffic's gonna just tear them all to pieces. And then everybody around you's gonna have to deal with it. But basically what you got across the street is an auto repair place that your father probably started, from what I understand, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I don't believe you're trying to branch out in the right place.
Anything else? Anybody else got questions?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
The lady referred to it as a junkyard. Do you have vehicles sitting there, Mr. Gordon, that have been there 6 months, 8 months, 12 months?
No, sir. Everything that's there is waiting to be repaired or waiting on the part to repair it. With the exception, my parents own a camper. That camper stays over there right now. And my dad has 2 trailers that stay over there in that corner. Everything else is in and out as quickly as possible.
Could I clarify that? I'm the one that said junkyard. Mr. Gordon's property is not the junkyard I was referring to. If you look on up further on the right, and probably nobody has complained in the neighborhood, there's a gentleman there that's been allowed to keep, how many cars would you say that are there? 40 or 50 cars on his land, and supposedly they're all running. You can look at them and see there's no engines in some of them, but
All right.
I have not complained. That's not my nature. You know, my only concern is this industrial and potential down the road, what that could mean. But that's what I meant. The Gordons don't keep a junkyard. They keep their place. You know, it's an industrial looking site.
Okay.
There are trees that block part of it. It isn't, and if he carries through and puts the trees up there without the industrial zoning, I have no problem. The junkyard's further down the road. I'm sorry, I just want to
I
clarify.
thought you were referencing his property there where these.
I was not calling his property a junkyard, no. But if you zone that light industrial, that falls under light industrial zoning. From what I read in the books, I read the books, and that is an allowable use of that property. And Jordan, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name. When we spoke, he said there are conditions on this property, but do those conditions pass when that's sold? I don't know. I'm just asking. Those are my concerns as a landowner on that street.
What are the conditions?
Conditions are what's on the site plan. And so you're talking about, let me get back to the fancy Zoom. So you're talking about proposed area for grading and gravel, and it's going to be a parking area. And then right there, you have a future building for auto repair, 2,400 square feet, 20 by 20 building, so 400 square feet for storage. You're talking about auto repair. To a certain degree, you can have vehicles there that might be for parts, but you're talking about storing inventory, cars that are waiting to get fixed or cars that are waiting to get picked up after they've been fixed. So it's going to be some turnover, but you could see some cars left there for a longer period.
But there's no restrictions on this like a special use permit would have. This is more of a general idea of what goes on in this zoning overall, correct?
No, if you want to recommend additional conditions and the applicant agrees to them, this is the time to consider them, because then we can package them up and put them to the Board of Commissioners in a couple weeks.
Well, now, have you been to this site?
Yes, I was the one who took the pictures.
Okay. The concern from, I think it was Potter Road.
I didn't look at it from Potter Road.
Okay, but okay, so if it was being seen, I'm sure if it was there, it was from the backside you're seeing it.
Yeah,
What could be done to alleviate that?
Well, there is, in the aerial, effectively the property line is there, or the proposed property line is there, so all this is in the residential. Now, obviously you have water, nothing's above the water, so that's not doing any screening. So you have very little screening along here to the site. There's obviously some forest along there, but in the winter, that's not much. So I'm not sure what else
Well,
can
is
be
this a
done.
hillside or is it just level?
It's flat.
So
Yeah, it's pretty flat.
basically,
The low area is obviously in the back.
so that's the low area where the pond is.
Right.
So it would be basically somewhat almost impossible to block the site from the top part from Potter Road, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so you do have a, let me go back to the site plan. I mean, you do have a screening along the back with the rear 50-foot setback, which is industrial to residential, so that's a larger setback and a larger screening than what you would normally get. So the standards include a consideration of that dynamic. Is it enough? You know, in some scenarios, it's not, and maybe this
Well-
is one of those scenarios.
The little round things around the green line,
Yes.
is that screening?
That's illustrative of the trees, yes.
All right, well, what I was going by, there's none of them showing around the backside.
Yes. Doesn't mean they're not gonna be there. I mean, the fact they put them there or not put them there, doesn't really change anything. The fact that it says S2 screen to be shown, that's what matters. So the screening is what goes in.
So it would be required along the back.
Yeah, it would go all the way around. Now, where the septic field is, the septic field can go in the setback, and obviously trees aren't gonna go over the septic field. So that's an area that's not gonna be screened nearly as well.
But we could require it to be, and then the septic tank, or the septic would have to be put further in, or if it's
When you
put there,
get
it
to- when
can't be put,
well,
well, you know.
When you
guide
get,
me
when
here.
you get to more substantive comments like that, you make it go back to square one in terms of site plan review, because we have to make sure that it's gonna work. Because maybe the soils aren't great anywhere except for right there, for example.
So the way the ordinance works is because that's an industrial butting up next to RA 40, there has to be some type of screening mechanism there. So it has to be there. Yeah, there's a septic system, there may, that's part of the site plan process. This is a very high-level plan, this is a conceptual level. If the Board of County Commissioners were to approve this rezoning, it would go forward, the plans would get more detailed, and, I mean, the applicant would ultimately have to figure that part out. The screening is required, you can't waive the screening.
Okay, well, that was my question.
Yeah.
There's got to be screening back
Yes.
there regardless. If it
Yes.
interferes with the septic, they got to figure out somewhere else to put the septic, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. And I think from what I heard, that's a future plan anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, that septic system would be for maybe a future shop over there, and that may be in the future, so, rules change over time, septic field locations can change, technology gets better, so you can put septic fields in different locations, so there's likely a way to figure that out in the future if that ever comes to fruition. Mark, I was going to point out, I think I heard you maybe express some concern regarding commercial vehicles. That's a condition, again, applicant would have to agree to it, but that's a condition you could think about, because there are two categories in the ordinance. There's personal vehicle repair and maintenance and commercial vehicle good gracious. Personal and commercial vehicle repair and maintenance. Since the existing shop is grandfathered, you can't regulate that part of it. But if you wanted to look at a condition maybe on the site that we're talking about to say, hey, only vehicles associated with personal vehicle repair and maintenance can be stored there, that might be something to think about. Like I said, you were talking about the road and commercial traffic, impacting the road, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, once you get you're gonna have Amazon and all them going all over the roads anyway, but once you get above the size of them, that's what I'm talking about.
Sure.
You're gonna start deteriorating the road.
Sure. No, I get what you're saying.
I guess my question, could you put a 26,000 pound gross vehicle weight limit on it? That way, you're about, that way, you're not expecting any more or more from him than what Amazon or UPS and all would have on there.
You can, as long as the applicant's agreeable with some limitations, you're open to a lot of different conditions. But when it comes to actually making sure those conditions are being met, we got to think about that. That might be a tough one to, if we got a call that said, hey, there's a vehicle that's over 26,000 pounds that's on that site.
And then it's not there when you get there.
Or Jim goes out there, I don't know how Jim's gonna weigh that vehicle.
Well, you don't have to weigh it, you just open the doors,
No,
open the door.
I know, I understand.
Yeah, that's where the conditions, you make them too fancy and things go sideways because it's just complicated and burdensome to administer.
And if we can't come up with a logical way to do it, then the best way is not do it then.
That's up to the seven of you to figure out.
Well, I'd like to say that I look at this, these are longstanding members of the community. And I think we should work with him, discussing different conditions like you said, come to that understanding, and then in terms of Ms. Willis's concerns about changing the zoning to light industrial, which is like putting up a public flag, opening the way for others to come in and change things, why can't we just set up agreeable conditions between the applicant and this group, not change the zoning?
We have to change the zoning.
So the property currently is zoned for residential use.
Leave it that way.
Auto repair is not allowed in residential zoning districts.
But across the road it was.
Because it's
And this
grandfathered.
was part of that original property.
It was part of the property, but the use wasn't over there. The use on where his father's property was, that's been there for a very long time, and it's grandfathered. This piece was not.
Well, let's grandfather it.
But you can't. That's set up by the ordinance. It had to be there when the ordinance was adopted. The only people who can do that, you would have to update the ordinance. The county commissioners would have to.
All right, let's request that.
Could a special assignment be
Okay.
granted to that parcel?
No.
There's
I
no
would-
mechanism
No.
to do, and a lot of that's not even based on what the county can do. A lot of that's based on North
Right.
Carolina general
Right.
statute.
Mr. Brook,
As it sits right now, you said he's using 5 times more space than,
Right now, he's not. What's proposed is, right now, he's complying, my understanding is he's complying with what was the amount that was the legal non-conforming portion, which means it's been there for 6 or 7 years. And so that's what he's currently doing. The proposal would expand it significantly. It would go back effectively to what was in this aerial.
so he could continue to operate as he is right there now,
Correct,
On his half acre.
on a half acre.
on a half acre. Park vehicles on a half acre,
Yes,
waiting to be worked on, have been worked on, waiting to be paid for and picked up.
yes.
How many vehicles can you get on a half acre, Mr. Gordon?
Several, so we manage that, again, pulling them back a little bit away from that entrance was just more so to hide them from the roadside. And then, like I say, having the extra space for delivery vehicles, some of our parts are big and come on freight trucks, and we currently unload them there in the curb, which is a hazard. So, to have that extra space of gravel, to get that truck off the road and be safely unloaded and not impede traffic was also a big thing we were looking at trying to eliminate. But yeah, again, and reiterating that to Michelle, the original half acre, nothing changes. You know, but my proposal is to put some type of screen around it, hide it, so that it can't be seen. Obviously, not stick out like a sore thumb, but then be able to use the space to get in and out of versus having to operate, you know, there on the side of the road.
I assume the trucks going in and out are not full. You know, I assume what you're working on is empty.
Right. I guess I should think. We work on very few Class A trucks, especially trucks with trailers. Again, our space is tight. I only did the tractor-trailer setup with the tanker for a local to help him out. Typically, now, yes, road tractor, day cab type stuff, which is a small tractor, single antenna max, we will work on those. But in terms of a loaded truck and trailer, there's just no room to get that in and out of our space. I do 100% see your concern, very valid concern, but let me just, if somebody called me with a loaded tractor and a trailer and said, can I bring it? It's absolutely not. You know, I mean, seekers can't get in there. It's just impossible. You could, you know, separate the truck and trailer and bring me the truck. Again, we don't do a lot of trailer. I typically send all my trucks. I'm sure you're familiar with Bobby Rabin over there. All the big trailer stuff I'll send out. I just don't have the room for it. The road tractor stuff, we do try to fix it. But now, what we do fix is pretty, I'm sure you're familiar with the emissions equipment, you know, typical in and out type stuff. I don't do any major overhauling of engines where this particular vehicle is sitting here for an extended amount of time. Most of it's in and out. Most of it are for people, you know, just that's their livelihood. So like I say, it's a quick in and out repair. And again, not loaded. You couldn't get a loaded tractor trailer pulled by a wrecker off the street there. You definitely couldn't make the sharp curve at the other end of Mary Elizabeth. And again, it just can't get into my property. It's tight enough as it is with one of Seeker's big trucks and a little bit bigger than day cabs. It just, that wouldn't be the case.
If he rocks a drive big enough just to circle in and out, but keeps everything in on this half acre, by doing that rocking and repairing, is he in violation without?
I don't understand what you're saying.
He says he can't get big vehicles in there, or for instance, a delivery truck, you said they unload out on the highway?
Right, yeah, yes, sir. Right now, we unload the freight trucks on the highway, unless it's not, again, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If it hasn't rained, right now, I'll utilize that cleared space. You know, I can pull them in and turn around that cleared space, but if it's rained any time in the days before, we risk the chance of getting it stuck. And again, we don't have anything big enough to pull out a freight truck. That would present a big issue. So the majority of our unloading is there on the side of the road.
So my question is, for unloading, could he rock a space that he could get a truck into and back out on the road safely? Would that have to be included in his half acre?
Well, that's the,
Parking lot?
we can't say anything about that because it's legal non-conforming. So it is what it is. The larger site has better, obviously more room, so there's circulation to actually make those maneuvers. I mean, to operate the business by dropping off things, but pulling off on the side of the road is not ideal. And if the DOT had any way of weighing in on that, they would. But, you know, that's the proposal you have, is to make things right essentially with zoning and site development standards, but through this action.
Now, I do have one question, as you guys mentioned, limiting to the original that got grandfathered in. If that is the case, like for example, my parents have a camper, I've got a 2 or 3 trailers, could those personal items that belong to me and my parents be moved? Sorry, Jordan.
No, you're good.
Like back into this area for my personal storage of my personal things to clear up
But
space
Jordan, you
here?
can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're not allowed to store a camper on a vacant lot. Is that not right? Is that not what we was running to when people was building houses?
If it were residential.
So I mean, really and truly, the camper's not supposed to be there to begin with on that lot, correct?
Well, there's a couple aspects of it, like Amy just said, it's not a vacant lot, it's actually part of his home site. It's part of his house.
It's connected in the back there, so it's
His house
still.
is up here.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two is if this were approved, as a rezoning, sure, I mean, you can store some inventory in
That
there.
is connected to his home, because again, it does connect to, it's on the same property as his house. He could store.
Well, there's a house in between it on a different lot. How's it
No.
on the same?
This is-
There's a small split.
I'm sorry.
You can't see it on that map.
It's tough to see, but it connects very close. This line right there, there's a reason why this black line goes around all of this, because it's all one parcel. This is a, I don't know, 20-foot wide strip that connects this with this.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I got
So if
you.
the rezoning's approved, this still connects with this.
It'll be subdivided out.
Right.
So basically, when you split this other one off, you left yourself a easement through there.
Now, that's not an easement.
Well, I know that, but you still own the property is what I'm
It's
saying.
his property.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
So the fact of the matter is, since that's part of the property where his house is, if he wanted to put a camper over there today, he could. 'Cause
Right.
It's zone residential, his house is on the property, that's fine.
Okay, I got you.
So again,
As long as
I
it
was
belongs
asking
to
that
him.
question,
Yeah.
just to clarify, because currently, I'm kind of just touching on
Sure.
Tom, sorry. Currently, my camper, I say mine, it's not mine, I just use it like it's mine, as long as my parents. It sits right here. And like I said, I've got 2 trailers that come in this area as well. So to free up extra space, if you guys limit me to what is there initially, I could take the camper and the trailers and park them on this back portion here to open up space for my parking
Yes.
there. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I was just trying to verify that to see if I could make, keeping the original. It would definitely help. Obviously, still couldn't get a freight truck in and out without having to back him in off the road. But it would give me the space for vehicles. And again, I don't necessarily want to have the vehicles sitting there. If they're sitting there, I'm not getting paid. That's just unprecedented time still. We haven't recovered from
Yeah.
the parts, but I just wanted to make sure I could move those other pieces of my property that are my personal stuff to this area to free up this area. Was my question.
And the same thing would hold true with that building. You could build that building today as a part of the residential component, as long as it was used for residential, for personal purposes. If it wasn't part of the business, today, that could be built, and that would be fine.
All right, anything else? Anybody? All right. Okay. All right, board, we have to make a decision now, so. I understand.
I mean, I understand the lady's concerns, and I understand the rezoning an area in a residential just to allow business there that you can open up a can of worms.
Yeah.
But man, I hate when a man's got a business going,
Right.
a successful business going,
Mhm.
and to crack his business.
Mhm.
I mean, this is hard to me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? I mean, this is.
And-
And it sounds like he's doing everything he can to shield all that from.
Yeah, and what comes to mind too in this, my grandfather ran a country store. The building's still there, it's deteriorating. But what I see here is, again, we're talking about somebody that's a part of the local community, has been for years, engaging in business. That is very different from some big organization where they have multiple shops and they're only interested in expanding their business and making a lot of money. Their first concern is not with the immediate community. And I think we have to take that into account. The concern here is with immediate community. And again, her concern, which is why I would say, let's don't rezone it, but let's help him accomplish what needs to be accomplished, because he has a business that serves that community.
Well, I think the applicant can be his own worst enemy. If he allowed a tanker truck to come in there, a friend, to do brake work, I think you said, but, you know, you can't allow these large vehicles to be there. They just can't. So I've run into this issue before with storage, and it can be a real problem for the neighbors. So I think there has to be a screening around the property for Powder Road, so that the people who live on Powder Road don't have to look at this. And I'm okay with proper screening and a limit to the storage of vehicles, the sizes of the vehicles.
I did have one other question. The lady, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, ma'am, but you bought.
Willis?
The lady agreed.
Yes,
That you bought the 13 acres that adjoins that property.
yes,
Was this going on when you
No,
bought
sir.
that property?
no, sir.
There was no cars over there?
No, sir. If you look at the map, it's the wooded parcel below Mr. Gordon's property. When we purchased the property in 2002, his shop, his father's shop, was in operation. That entire parcel, Mr. Gordon purchased, I think around 2015, is 8 acres, or I guess it was 10 at the time. It was completely covered in pine trees.
Like he said, the Beatles got in.
It was not in use. There was no house on it. Initially, when he first built the small house, he put in a little driveway going to where his business is, the lot is now, a little driveway, and a little bitty building, like a 6x8 from Lowe's. And there were maybe a couple little car hauling type trailers, and that was it. And then suddenly, when he built his big house, the larger home, which I believe was 2020, he had all that cleared, and that's when all that equipment started coming in.
Well, I have a question. From your house, can you see this?
Yes, sir, as a matter of fact, I can. My house, you can't see my house is in the kind of cleared looking area down there in the
Yeah,
woods.
I see your house there, I see the top of it.
Our
Okay,
house is right here.
When I'm in my backyard, that cleared area, I can look through and see the equipment.
But like in the
No, sir,
summertime,
even
you
in the
probably.
summertime, even in the summer, I can see the stuff shining, and in the wintertime, it's even worse. And I'm sorry I am upset, but
Well, I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from, but
I never said anything initially. I don't want to cause my neighbor a problem. I think a man has a right to run a business too. But when it starts hurting my property value, then you got to stand up and say something.
Ma'am, you said that you had tried to sell a lot or two off of that end up there.
I wanted to sell 5 acres.
You wanted to sell 5 acres.
Mhm.
Somebody lowballed you.
Yeah, my realtor had several lowball offers where they actually wrote to her, their agent, and said that because of this, we think it's not worth what you're asking for it.
Was that significant less than what you paid for the land per acre?
Sir, I bought the property in 2002. I paid $100,000 for the whole thing, including the house. So,
Well, again, my question is, was that significantly less per acre than what you paid for it, what they offered you?
Oh, no, sir, no. We had it listed for 40,000 an acre, which was fair market value. And I wanted to sell it in one parcel. My intention was, because I'm retirement age, to sell 5 acres adjacent to Mr. Gordon, suitable for one house, because I still like my privacy, and down the road sell maybe a 3-acre tract on the Potter Road side, and keep my home in the middle until I can't live by myself anymore. So that was my intention.
Anything else? All right. Well, we need a motion here. We gotta bring this in. We can put conditions if we're gonna do this, correct?
I'm sorry?
We can add conditions?
You can add conditions as long as the applicant agrees.
Your applicant agrees, okay.
Well, if he doesn't agree, what's his option?
You have the option to come up with conditions and ask the applicant. If the applicant agrees, you're good. If the applicant doesn't agree, you could always make a motion to recommend denial.
Yeah.
Or do something different.
Well, then I have a question now. This screening that's already required. This screening is around every bit of it except the, what you'd call the driveway, I'll say, okay? Right? So would this screening help block from this lady's home the view? Because it's along that side too, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, it would be along the back as well. I mean, it's,
Well, I'm talking about this side down
It's
here.
gonna be all
Yeah,
around.
that.
yeah, it'd be 360 degrees around it. Her house is back this way. So, yes, it would be more as a percent of what's already between this operation and her backyard. It's not that large a percent difference, but it's more than zero.
Okay. What was the other question?
I know this is kind of a weird question, but you had to cut all your trees down because of beetles. Is there pine trees on your land?
No, sir, they're hardwoods.
Okay. All right.
This was part of an estate, and there were some pine trees on my property right next to his, but we had them cut. I don't know. It was
Okay.
maybe an acre.
That answers it. Okay.
So, Mark, just so you're aware, what's required over there is an S2 screen. And that's a specific type of screen that's defined in the UDO. So what that is a continuous opaque screen 6 feet in height. And then I'm gonna read glasses on, it's kind of hard to see. Every 40 feet along that stretch, that's why you have that sort of that light green line on that. That's representing that 6 foot opaque height. And then those sort of circles represent shade trees planted every 40 feet that kind of help supplement and make it a little bit taller on that 6 foot screen. So it's a 6 foot opaque screen. That's like either bushes or you can do a fence as well. And then, like I said, every 40 feet you have to have a shade tree. So it's.
All right, well, let me ask this. What you do at this business, is it any different than what's been done the whole time y'all been in business?
I'm sorry. No, sir, it's not.
So basically, you're carrying on the same thing your dad did.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, as far as what can be seen from Potter Road, I mean, realistically, that ain't no difference driving down the road and seeing something you don't like that's already there. I mean, you really can't count that part. you've been in business, it's there, you've already been allowed a half-acre lot. So you can put what you want there. And all you're asking for is to exceed on that where you can basically bring your business across the road. But the bottom line is, you've got privilege for the half-acre that's already there, and regardless whether it's zoned or not, it's not gonna change basically what's there, because the trees are already gone, right?
Right.
Okay, then I think we need to come up with some good stipulations and move on here.
Okay, well, what's our stipulations gonna be? We gotta talk to him with those.
Well, how do you get more than a 6-foot tree?
Well, the 6 feet's usually achieved by like a hedgerow. So you're gonna plant bushes, and to be honest with you, the 6 foot is at maturity. So it's probably not gonna be 6 foot when it's planted.
Well, how do we exceed that and get a little higher tree?
Put big ligustrums back there, I grow a lot of stuff, ligustrums are evergreen and they get 20 feet tall, and you can't kill them.
Okay,
You could,
And I was about to start planting them myself over there.
okay, thank you.
you could specify a height, of whatever screen. I wouldn't get into actually dictating the type of tree, because based on conditions, that may change. We don't have the urban forester here to kind of talk about that, but you could say something over 6 feet tall. So if you wanted to say it's gotta be an 8-foot opaque screen, you could do that. And
But
that's-
now, whatever that height is, it has to be achieved at maturity. You can't require it in the beginning.
Correct,
Right.
right.
So what if you said like on the back side, the back part,
Or on the,
let's call it the Potter Road side?
right.
What if we required that to be a 12-foot at maturity?
That could be a condition if the applicant was agreeable.
I have no problem, honestly, again, I don't wanna see it from my house either. I did plan on, if this got approved, talking to Andy Cranfield at the Forestry Service and asking him what
All
he
right, well, if
recommends.
everybody's happy, let's say 12 foot.
All right, Mr. Gordon seems okay with that.
You good with all of it being
Again,
12
that's
foot?
my intentions
Let's do
anyways.
it
I just
all.
gotta, if
Let's
they
say
make a
the
tree that Andy
Maturity
recommends,
12 foot.
you know, I plan on, again, I can't reiterate, I don't wanna see it either, so.
Okay, so you're okay with it? Okay.
And then, let's talk about vehicles. Let's say no Class A vehicles with trailers.
No Class A's with trailers.
So in other words, you're gonna have to find somewhere else to work on your tanker trailer.
Okay.
In other words, if you wanted to bring a bobtail truck down there and do a little work on it, that's fine, because they usually weigh about 26,000 pounds without the trailer. But with the trailer, they could be up to 80,000. Them
Okay.
roads won't handle that.
You're gonna need to dumb down the terminology.
I was about to say, for the dumb ones in the room that don't know what a Class A vehicle is.
Well, a Class A truck is sort of like the tractor trailer.
Is that based on a,
Base it on axles.
or a number, or is that based on a number of pounds? I mean, is that how you specify?
Well, put it this way, anything under 26,000 pounds, you don't have to have a CDL license unless it has an air brake.
Is there an easy way, I guess another way to phrase it is, if Jim's on site and he's doing an inspection, is there an easy way for him to tell? Like, can he open the door and it says, is there like how you're talking about?
Yes, absolutely, there is a tag in every
It is.
door that says the vehicle weight.
But does it say a class? So can I convert weight to class?
I don't think it does it? No.
It shows weight, just like a trailer tank.
So I would ask, just for ease of
Yeah.
staff going out and looking at the site, if we could tie it to something that's easily identifiable. If we could go out and look and see if it's 26,000 pounds, if it says on that door that it's 26,000 pounds, it's fine. If it says it's 30,000 pounds, then it's gotta go.
Now, I'd like to just, I mean, I'm with him, but just questions about that. Again, I can't get a broken down towed-in tractor trailer in and out.
How about this? How about we just say no combination vehicles? And what that would mean is no truck, and I'm talking about a truck, not a pickup truck. Yeah, the larger type truck connected to a trailer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, you know, it doesn't matter if it has
So
two axles or three axles.
So
It
no
would just-
combination vehicles, but if you wanted to bring the tractor in there, you could. You
Absolutely.
just couldn't have the trailer on. Okay.
Yeah, because that's basically what he works on anyway. He works on the engines and the stuff for that, yeah.
Now, I guess in my question, okay, a freight truck pulls in tomorrow, Michelle drives by and sees it and calls you guys, there's a tractor trailer in this parking lot. At what point does that become,
Well, first of all, nobody, I don't think nobody can put a restriction on if you getting a delivery to run your business.
Yeah.
We're talking about vehicles you actually work on.
okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, you-
if
It could still
it,
be the Class A truck, or it could be the trailer, they just can't be there together. It's a
well,
trailer
no, you
gets
can't
towed.
have both because in order to get the trailer, you'd had to have the truck bring
Well,
it.
The truck would have to drop it off, exactly.
So now what we're saying is you can work on the truck, not the trailer.
Right. Just trying to, I mean,
You're saying no trailer work. If you had to-
All I'm saying is if you allow the combination to come in there, you're gonna tear the road up because you're gonna end up working on something that does have weight on it. And then nobody's gonna go down there and monitor what each thing's got. So you're gonna have to come to a agreement with a stipulation in order to get support.
So no trailer.
Right.
At all.
No truck and trailer combinations in that way.
Because if he pulls a trailer in there for what he's gonna pull it in there with, it's gonna be the same way as if the tractor came in there and the
Right.
trailer hooked
Yeah,
together.
that's right.
y'all are all looking at me like you're waiting on me to agree.
Well, you gotta be agreeable.
Well, let me ask this. Is one such truck going to tear up the road?
One ain't.
The only thing is what we do here in this zone, this means that later on in life, if he tries to sell it to somebody, the next man comes in there, he might do that for a living. And we gotta put the stipulations on it now for the future. Because what the decisions we make on this goes with the land, not the person.
But just like we've been changing a lot of past decisions, that can happen down the road. Why can't, since he has heard the concerns and is agreeing to that, why can't we leave it up to him? Why can't we trust him to do that
Well,
for the time being, not try to cover every situation?
I get what you're saying, but the whole thing is, when that road turns into mush, he ain't gonna have enough money to fix it. And everybody that lives in Union
But that's-
County and the state of North Carolina has to put the money to do it. And it's our job to see that their tax money is spent right.
Well, and I'm saying, I think he would be cognizant of that. He might, for somebody he knows that has one, like he's already said, do that one, but not do a whole fleet of them.
Well, I get what
Can I
you're
say
saying.
something? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
The thing I'm saying is the
100%
next man
understand.
might not feel that way.
Let's let him make it.
100%, I agree with what you're saying. There are some super heavy vehicles on the road, 100%. Even if you allowed me to have the tractor and the trailer there, this little gravel lot is not gonna hold up to it. You're not gonna get me, this Bull Tyler soils, I mean,
Oh, no,
it's gonna tear everything I got up to get it. My I've always told them, it can't come here loaded. You know, if you've got a trailer and there's some way that you can get bobtail, you have to. I mean, it's impossible. I say that because that's been my rule. The soils will not, and I think all of them will attest to our soils will not hold up to a loaded tractor trailer. But the only reason I don't want to disagree or not agree to the stipulation of combat vehicles, and we had this conversation pre-COVID, I probably wouldn't bat an eye at it. However, COVID changed everything for us, so I don't want to sit here and agree. Right now, I don't work on trailers. I send everything to Ravens. I mean, we have a very good business agreement right now, and that's a different story. But this is my livelihood. If I had something come up, I don't want to tell them, man, listen, I'm starving, I can't feed my kids because I can't work on this trailer that they made me promise you I wouldn't work on. I don't want to be in that
All right,
situation.
And I
Again,
totally get where you're coming from.
Pre-COVID, I
and I
probably would've
totally
been-
sympathize with you. But the zoning goes with the land. So 10 years down the road, if something comes up that takes you out of Union County, and here you've built you a shop over there and you've got a nice place to work. Somebody buys it, say they buy my company too, Salem Produce, and they want to come down there and work on these trucks there. There's nothing stopping them.
Well,
That's
put a
why you have
stipulation
to
on
do
if
it
I sell
now.
it, it has to go back to RA 40. I mean, can you do that? Like I say,
No, you can't.
my
You can't.
conversation with Mr. Bjorn was, I've got my fifth youngin' on the way. I would love at some point to not need this and one of my kids put a house there. So that was my question from the get-go, because like her, I've questioned light industrial zoning. Because ultimately, we all would like to have our children live close to us. So I don't want to put this title on this piece of land and in 10 years now not be able to gift it to one of my kids and say, here, build a house here.
Well, bottom
So
line,
can you
they'd
put
have
a
to come back
stipulation on
here.
where, I mean, I can't sell this light industrial property if it comes up for sale. I do have to sell it, but it has to go back to RA 40.
Well, they'd have to come back and do exactly what you're doing now and get it rezoned again, right?
But you could put a stipulation in there that if it was for sale, that the title would have to go back and it'd have to have the new.
We can't do that, can we?
Excuse me.
Zoning runs with the land. You can't.
Okay, so you can't put a stipulation in there.
Yeah, we can't, that's one stipulation we can't do.
And again, I just want to verify one more time that if I do gift this land to my kids, I can go through this process again and try to get it back.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, you can absolutely come
Okay.
back, yeah.
I 100% agree. My place won't hold it for. I've never worked on anything loaded. I just don't want to, heaven forbid, be twiddling my thumbs one day starving and somebody call me with a trailer and ask if I can fix it and say, no, Union County told me that I couldn't have your trailer. You know what I mean? That's my only stipulation. Pre-COVID, I'd have probably never thought of that. But I mean, that swung everything for us. And I hope you guys understand. I'm not trying to be argumentative about it. I just don't want to limit myself to not being able to pay my bills because we put this stipulation on there.
And I get you what you're saying, but I can't go along with it because, like I said, it goes with the land. I can't support it if we can't have a stipulation on it.
I mean, I understand that as well. I mean, there's some heavy trucks on the road for sure.
All right. Anything? Anything else? All right, do we have a motion?
What was the motion?
I don't have one.
Oh, I thought you said you
I
had
said,
one. I'm
do
sorry,
we
sorry,
have,
sorry.
somebody's gotta,
Well, as bad as I hate it, I'm gonna have to make a motion that we advise, or our, is to not to go along with this, because I think this gentleman right here would probably be a great businessman and great for the community and everything else. And what his family has done is went fine, but by rezoning this, it leaves too big of an open area for the future to have things happen that's gonna be bad for your neighbors. And once it's done, it's done.
And again, no stipulation to put, if I did put the land up for sale, that I would have to, before I put it on the market, go through the process myself to have it put back as RA 40. I just don't know how those stipulations and things work. Or if it's possible.
yeah, it's gonna be, if it's switched to like, industrial, it's gonna stay that way. The only way it's gonna change is if you or somebody that buys it
Mayor's a person.
comes back and asks you to change it to something else. That's the only way. It's done. It's done.
We gained some room by moving the motorhome and the trailers.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got the opportunity to move that other stuff and have that full half acre that you got. So it's not like you're being put out of business.
No, I agree, but that's just, I mean, Michelle's complaining she can see it, so if I don't get approved and don't plant this screen and move all my junk to this far side of hers, then again, I've got neighbors that are angry with me, and that's gonna frustrate her, I'd say, even more than what is there now. Again, you're right, that does create a bigger space for me in the center, but then again, I'm trying to please my neighbors, I'm trying to keep my business. I'm trying to do everything I can. So you're right, 100%, that does give me a bigger area in the grandfathered in, but Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, no trees and a camper and 2 trailers and stuff parked right there at the edge of your property.
Adam, I'm planning on, as soon as I get that lawn surveyed properly, I'm gonna start planting ligustrums, and I am not gonna be able to see that in 5 years. But, from my property.
Okay, it's good.
All right, let's have this, we're not the last say. The
Okay.
commissioners may see this 100% different and let you build do whatever you want to, but I can't go along with it personally, so I recommend denial. What do I need? I recommend denial of rezoning petition CZ 2025-002 and adopt the advisory consistency and responsibility statement for the recommended denial, which, do I need to read that?
No.
You know, just, yeah, you know, you can read that.
All right, that's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that based on my past experience.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion fails, so we need another motion. Yes, sir.
Move to read the zoning as it is with the stipulation that the boundary barrier be erected to a height of 12 feet.
Okay, you're gonna have to turn to the last page on item 1 tab.
Don't go there.
Yeah, that's Miss Amy gonna make you do this. And, what you're gonna have to say is that written in red right there, but, right? Does he have to, don't they have to read that?
Say what
But
you're.
that's not what his motion was.
Yeah, well,
If the zoning's not changing, then you have no rezoning, and you can't put a condition on the property unless.
oh, okay, yeah. Oh,
The zoning's not changing.
You can't leave it the same and then put a condition on it. So if you're going to leave the
Oh, okay.
zoning the same,
If you want to make a motion,
It's gotta be a change, all right.
with.
right,
With the stipulation.
Right.
right.
Okay.
So you would, so you're wanting to see the 12-foot or whatever? Yeah. So that what you would want to do is recommend approval of the petition with that added as with that added as an extra condition.
No, that's not what I want.
Okay,
I didn't want to give you light industrial.
I got you.
Okay,
I didn't want to give you light industrial. I want him to operate on the spot that he's got available, do his camping stuff. like he
Then
said he would do.
then that would have been really Mark's motion.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to revote on mine?
I didn't hear anything about a boundary. I'm sorry.
well, his motion is to deny it.
You
Oh,
can't
good.
deny.
Because if
and
you
then put
deny it, you
stipulation
can't put a-
12 foot. You can't do that. The only reason, the only way you can put a condition on it is to approve it. If you're turning the zoning down, it stays as is.
So if we just say, vote it down, that he can operate like he's been operating, he don't have to put any boundary to protect this lady over here.
I don't care.
He can operate on the half acre, he can't expand.
I mean, he says he's going to, but he don't have to
Correct.
if he stays on that half acre.
Correct.
Well, I wanted him to operate on his half acre, put the boundary up, but that ain't what we can do right here.
Correct.
I can handle the boundary. I can handle the edge.
Does anybody wanna make another motion?
Sorry, Mark.
Well, you want to remake the motion I made and let's vote on it again?
He wants a 12-foot.
Well, we can't do that.
That's what they said, so, I mean, I like you, but I don't like, the motion just to deny it, then everything can stay. But he's supposed to get back to the half acre,
Correct. Right.
to the half acre, and he says he's gonna put a boundary.
But we can't.
But we can't make it.
You're right, you can't enforce a boundary,
Right.
all you can enforce is the half acre.
Right, we go back to the half acre and that's it.
I figure there'll be some questions, so I'm just preparing.
Thank you again.
Well, all right, I'll remake the motion to recommend denial of rezoning petitions CZ 2025-002 and adopt the advisory consistency and responsibility statement for the recommendation of the denial.
That's the motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. No.
Let me put it this way. I will vote against the rezoning for the reason specified. And since apparently we can't put any other stipulations, then we simply trust him, having heard all the discussion, to do what's best.
So he voted in favor of
Let's-
Mark's motion?
Let's just re-vote.
Okay.
So Mark's made his motion.
Mark made a motion. All those in favor of the motion to deny the rezoning, to send a recommendation of, to not approve it? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion,
And all those,
all those opposed, motion carries.
So 4-3.
4-3. Okay. Okay. Everybody understand? Now, again, this is not the end of the road. This will go before the county commission.
correct.
They're the ones, the final decision.
What will happen next for everyone who's interested in this is that you'll receive another letter. And this will go to the Board of Commissioners on June 16th. That's at 6 PM in this room. And they'll have a public hearing, which feels the same as what just happened, but it's a little more formal. It's when the Z sign will show up in the yards. You'll see the rezoning sign. It's just the next step. That's gonna be when will the sign go up? I don't know, probably in the next week at the most. But June 16th is when the meeting will be. So,
6 PM.
6 PM, same room.
All right, next item is conditional rezoning 2024-CZ011 Union Landscaping. Bjorn.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Land Use Board. This is a,
Y'all are free to leave if y'all want to, those people.
you don't have to stay, sorry.
You don't have to, you don't have to stand.
Sure. So this is a conditional rezoning request called Union Landscaping for the business, Union Landscaping. This is a 2.4 acre parcel going from RA 20 to RA 40 with conditions. And it's going to be limited to the site plan I'm about to present, similar to the previous one, 5-year vesting of development rights, and will meet all requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance. This is the site plans off of Sanford Lane. It's near the Monroe Airport. This is a landscaping business a greenhouse has been in business for a long time. There was a change in ownership, want to add landscaping business to it, ran into a code violation because they started doing it before they had approvals to do so. So this is a combination of the rezoning and the special use permit as a part of that process. You're familiar with the special use permit process.
Bjorn?
Yes.
Is this the spot down there where they used to have the Swans place? Where the,
You know anything about
That was Providence Landscape.
No.
all right, okay.
So this is the site plan. It's essentially what's there right now. You'll see that on the aerial. So you have a pond over here. That's also the stormwater pond. You have gravel cleared out for office and storage and nursery areas, tree save in the back. So this is what it looks like right now. You can see the fence with the employee parking on there. Large lot rural residential area on Sanford Road or Sanford Lane, I forget which. two-lane road. In terms of proximity to municipalities, you can see Gold Mine Road right here. This is City of Monroe right there. They were consulted for comments, feedback. Development status, you have a subdivision behind them, large lot residential along Sanford Lane, a lot of vacant lots to the north along Gold Mine Road. In terms of environmental features, you have a creek to the west with floodplain. There's nothing on site. That pond is man-made. In terms of zoning, it's interesting because the City of Monroe obviously has their own zoning, so that's to the north. There's been 2 large industrial rezonings in the past 15-plus years to the west and to the north of this property because there's large industrial parks that are around the airport. And the remainder is R20, RA20 zoning. In terms of transportation, there's no funded road improvements in this area. Traffic along Sanford Lanes, approximately 1,400 vehicles per day, approximately 5,800 vehicles per day on Gold Mine Road. There's no funded road improvements. There's no expected change in traffic patterns because the business is already in operation. In terms of the land use plan, this blue employment center you see, it's a circle. It is, the fact that it's an edge right, the edge is right on Sanford Lane. There's nothing intentional about that. The dot was a dot. We're making land use recommendations for the whole county, so this really was meant to be a circle around the industrial park area. Now, I will say that we've had a couple large industrial rezonings in the vicinity of this, so that is consistent with, you know, the intention of that employment center that was identified in the land use map. The remainder is single-family residential, which means if you have access to utilities, approximately 2 units per acre. Schools, because this is commercial, the school system was not consulted, and because water and sewer are not available to the site, this would utilize well and septic, and Union County Water was not consulted, or didn't have comments, rather. Community meeting was held earlier in May. There were 2 attendees. They didn't have any concerns about the proposed rezoning, thought it was fine. No changes to the site plan or uses were proposed as a part of the comments, and Monroe was consulted, and they didn't have any comments about this rezoning. So the negatives is that this specific area is identified as single-family residential. Uses allowed in rural areas, which are, you know, could be the landscaping business, could be the nursery, not consistent with higher density residential, and it could facilitate additional employment uses in close proximity to these residential areas along Sanford Lane. Positives are that the greenhouse has been in operation for many years without conflict. It's not going to create a traffic impact. It's on the edge of the employment center. We add a lot of details about what that means, is that, you know, uses that are encouraged, like industrial, warehouse, office, research. This would increase business opportunities in Union County, and it can meet our development standards. There's been a couple rezonings in the area for industrial. This is next to a utility corridor, so just to the west, I think is it natural gas?
It's a natural gas.
Natural gas just to the west of it, so there's already a strip of protected land on the west side of the property. Didn't hear anything from the residents against it, and so our recommendation is for approval.
Any of them endangered sunflowers around it?
There are some Schweinitz sunflowers nearby, I think to the east, but nothing's been identified as part of this site, but if it is,
Well,
they'll
they
have
make it
to
happen, grow them
protect
in
that.
their greenhouse there and solve that endangered part.
That is a potential mitigation if they're found to grow and replace their own.
Any questions for Bjorn?
And the applicant and owners are here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Bjorn? Any questions for the applicant?
Bjorn, go back to that initial picture.
The picture or the site plan?
That was either or.
Okay.
Which way's north?
Up,
Up?
yes.
Okay.
So Charlotte's this way, downtown Monroe's over here.
Basically, gold mine there, that's the end of their airport runway there.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
it was
there's-
part of the
That
relocation, I
road
think.
turns off there, and then you go around there to where all the endangered sunflowers are.
Yes.
You're correct.
Yeah, we ran into that with the
Yep, right around the corner.
sidewalk
Which way is the bus parking?
That way.
to the west.
This way?
The bus parking is, yeah, that one. Nope, that's that way.
No,
no,
you're
which way?
right, it's
Yeah.
north there, it's in
Yeah.
that blue part
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah,
Is it to the east?
Yeah.
yes, at least.
Okay,
You're right. I think so.
That's the industrial park.
now I'm straight.
Okay,
Yeah, so the runway's just north off the map.
okay. All right. All right, have the owner come up real quickly, just, anybody want to ask any questions? If not, just, or if you want to say anything?
No, just thank you for the meeting. and just
All right.
to
Good
hear.
job.
All right, anything? Larry? All right, well, thanks for standing up here.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have anything else to ask or see or say or anything? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I mean, is anybody here to speak against
I
it?
don't believe there were. I didn't get no notice if there was. Is there anybody here to speak? Well, they didn't sign up. All right.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, well, you got it? Okay.
I make a motion, we recommend approval of the rezoning CZ 2024-11, adopt advisory consistency and reasonable statement for the recommendation of approval.
That's the motion. Is there a second? Have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you all.
That was easier than that.
That was a little bit easier. All right, Mr. Lee Jensen.
I couldn't see anything, so.
You have 3 minutes.
All right, I'm good with that.
I think we've talked about this one enough. You really don't have a lot to share, do you?
Just the text changes.
Just the changes. All right, talk to us.
This is, essentially, I'm bringing this back. This is based on our discussion at our April, I think it was April, the special meeting just across the hall.
Yes.
We talked about how to deal with lots of record and minor subdivisions and how to allow family members maybe to create some more lots that they might not otherwise be able to. The board's direction was to draft it up like you see here, and also to stay away from trying to change anything with the number of lots. You know, at one time we'd discussed the number of lots that constitutes a minor subdivision. We decided, well, the board's direction was, we don't want to mess with that right now. We want to deal with this lot of record issue. So what this really constitutes is looking at this. There's 3 things that need to change in the ordinance. I'm going to talk about the one in the middle first, and that is essentially a definition. It's the definition of a lot of record. That definition would change to what you see in black and green. So a lot that is, 1, part of an approved subdivision, or 2, a lot that is platted or described by meets and bounds that is an exempt subdivision. So there are certain types of divisions of property that are exempt, and that's by state statute. That's not something that we dictate, it's just something that the state General Assembly has said these things are exempt. So we didn't want to treat those differently because under the law they're both equal. And that plat or description of which has been recorded in the Office of the Register of Deeds on or prior to, and that adopted dates in there, that's just a holding pattern, because that would be, if the Board of Commissioners adopted this, that'd be whatever date they adopted it. And then resetting every 10 years from the adopted date, such that the lots created under those 2 things above become new lots of record when, as of that reset date. So essentially you start on that, if this is approved, whatever date that is, I'm just gonna make up a date and say it's July 1st. So if the Board of County Commissioners approves this on July 1st, we'll have a snapshot of all the parcels that exist in unincorporated Union County. Those will be lots of record. And then every 10 years, you get a new set of lots of record. So that's the definition of a lot of, that is the proposed definition of a lot of record. And how that applies to minor subdivisions, we'll go back to this, the first thing, this section 80.070, the applicability. So really all that does is that changes that single tract, that magic February 14th, 1978 date that we talked so much about back in April. It basically says no more, and it refers to the lot of record definition. So essentially, that's how you determine what a minor subdivision is. 8 lots out of a lot of record. So that way, it essentially, you're resetting that every 8 years. Now, the second part of that that's already in place is really important, and I want to point that out, because the question came up, because we've run this by our legal staff, they've looked at it, they're okay with this. But their question was, well, can you do 8 lots? Let's say you get somebody that's real savvy, could you do 8 lots like the day before it resets, and then come back the day after it resets and get not just 8 more lots, but 8 more lots out of all of those 8 more lots, so essentially 64 lots. And you really can't, because of 2 things. One is you also didn't want to really mess with changing that 2 lots on a private drive right now. That does still refer back to the February 14th, 1978 date. So that's still set in stone. That could be addressed in the future, but right now we're not dealing with that. So you could still only get 2 lots on a private access easement out of that original property in 1978. The other thing is, so because you can't do that, you're obviously going to have a bunch, if you went down that path of 64 lots, you're going to have a bunch of landlocked parcels. We're going to have to build a road to it. Any division of property that requires the construction of new streets, public water sewer facilities, sidewalks, or similar infrastructure is not considered a minor subdivision. That's a major subdivision. That's where you got to come in, go through engineering, get your roads approved. It's bigger. So that's why I wanted to point that out, because you can't just, you can't make a loophole here. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a loophole, because you are allowing people to do some more lots for family purposes, but the developer could take advantage of that. But you're not going to say 8 lots today, 64 lots tomorrow, and then whatever that multiplier goes up to. The third part I'll point out is the definition of minor subdivision. And we didn't really have to do this one, but the reason we did is we wanted to mirror what it says under applicability in that definition of minor subdivision. Because you can see today it's just what you see there in black and the red strike through. So what we wanted to do is add that do not, under the terms of this ordinance, require the construction. So essentially that rule's already in place. We wanted just to mirror it to make it 100% clear in the ordinance that that's what that means. It's already there under the applicability section, but we felt it should probably be in the definition as well. So that's why that one's there. Based on the board's discussion in April, I think the real thing you may want to discuss, and maybe you don't, maybe you're good with it, is that number of years.
I thought we ended up at like 5 years.
So I think I heard some people say 5. I think I heard some people say 10. I heard some people say 15. Again, I wanted you to discuss it, and I want the board to come to some agreement on what that number should be. Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 15? And think about it from this standpoint. The reason that this is being proposed today is I believe because it's generational. So in 78, you had a bunch of parent parcels. And that was 47 years ago, is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. However many, my math's not very good, but it was a long time ago. But what you're, and everything was fine. But now, because you've had really 2 generations since then, you had the grandparents, then you had the parents, now you've got grandkids, you're bumping up on that 8 lots. And so I think the question was, well, do you set it at a 5-year interval, which is not really generational, or do you set it closer to something that's really more of a generational thing? So that's, again, I think that's for the board to think
Don't
about.
split the difference and do it 7 years.
I mean, that's, again, that's for the board to discuss and to come up with a consensus on.
Question about this last one, about the minor subdivision.
Yeah,
The state does not do sidewalk repair and all, correct?
correct.
Then I have a question. Why do we keep requiring sidewalks when basically the county is gonna end up having to pay to fix them unless it's part of a homeowners association deal?
We don't. The entity that gets the encroachment permit from the NCDOT is the one who's responsible for maintenance. Now, how that plays out in reality, a lot of times people don't know that. We've had that in Indian Trail with a church. But no, that's the answer, is that the individual HOA or property owner, if it's just across their frontage, is responsible for it.
But have we ever thought that we make all these nice, pretty sidewalks, and then if ever who done what you just said refuses to do it or don't have the money to do it, if we want it fixed, it's gonna become a burden on the county taxpayers to get it fixed, or it's gonna be a mumbled up mess on the side of the street.
Uh,
I agree.
And there's a whole.
I think county needs to get out of the sidewalk business.
There's a whole discussion that could be had around that, but today, we do have some requirements for sidewalks, and that's why that's in that definition. Now, at some other meeting, we could absolutely have a discussion about the requirement
Well,
of
I think it's
sidewalks, and we
something
could get into
We
that.
and the commissioners and all need to talk about, because this is going to be a problem probably not too far down in the future.
I don't disagree.
I personally don't have a problem with 10 years, because right now it's 1978.
Right.
So I don't see a problem with 10 years, because I think every 10 years, 8 lots I mean, I know, I'm just saying, I think, yeah, right, and I agree. I mean, like you said, we're doing this for a generational situation, not to build more houses and necessarily, but I don't have a problem. I think 10's fine. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with 15, honestly, but.
I agree with Tim.
Yeah. I don't have a problem.
Absolutely.
It says 10 in the middle section there.
Yeah, no, I'm good with 10.
Refresh my memory. Why do we need to specify a number of years?
Because today, it's based on that date of February 14th, 1978. So what you're essentially doing to folks at that point is you're locking them in, and you're saying, you have a parent parcel that's based on this date, you can only cut 8 lots out of that piece of property. And you got a lot of people right now, we run into it a lot, that are, in 1978, their grandparents owned it, and the grandparents had some kids. They gave their kids lots. Those kids gave their kids lots, but somebody's left out because they bumped up on that 8 lots. What this would do is reset that, like in a generational type format, to where you said, okay, every 10 years you get some additional lots. So those grandkids can now build houses on that family piece of property.
Well,
Oh, yeah, and so what Amy was saying is, today, the way it would work is, you could still do it. It would just be that that ninth person would have to go through an arduous process called a major subdivision to cut that lot out. We don't want people to have to do that. Not when they're just building a lot for their family. And this, we've been through several iterations of the best way to deal with that, because if you just change that number to 9, then you're still gonna run into the issue, because somebody's gonna want 10. So this is honestly the easiest way that we could come up with to accommodate families that wanted to have an additional lot or 2 additional lots for family members. Now, I'm not saying that a developer may be able to buy a piece of property and cut out 8 lots, sit on it for 10 years, cut out 8 more lots, sit on it for 10 years. A lot of developers aren't going to want to do that because they want to be able to plat a bunch of lots and get a return. They don't want to sit on it for 20, 30 years.
I didn't know none of them stayed in town 10 years.
Well, to me, it's a drastic difference between rules for families and rules for developers. Families ought not to be so constrained. The government ought to offer their thoughts, suggestions, advice, information, but leave it to the family to make the decision. That ought to be different from a developer who wants to make as much money as he can.
That would be a state and a constitutional issue.
Well,
Well,
we need to get that. I'm sure you're aware of the HB 765.
That would not address this issue. Well,
That is why I'm referring to that the rules need to be different here for developers, because that was their grasp for ultimate power. An evil, tyrannical, taking away the liberty of local decisions.
I think what this does, though, is what we're doing here helps the family. Because, yeah, this is a step in the right direction, and I support it. So, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, you're gonna have to read it right here on this little page right here. Sorry.
Sorry. To recommend approval, Union County Land Use Board has reviewed the text amendments, text 2025-001 for sections A.70.
You only have to read the red part.
Yeah, just the read.
Just the red. Yeah.
I recommend approval for the proposed text amendment, TXT 2025-001, and little dots, little I's, adopt the advisory consistency and reasonableness statement for recommendation of approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
And just for anybody in the audience that's interested, this will likely go to the Board of Commissioners for public hearing on July 7th.
Okay.
However, because of holidays, that date could potentially change. Did they already shift it? Oh, okay. I didn't get that update. So is it the 14th? Okay, so it'll be July 14th. Thank you,
I have a
Bill.
request. When whoever writes these in the red, when you're asking us to dot our i's, go ahead and put crossing the t's there too in parentheses. Don't leave half of it out.
I do that, I might have done that. They don't make them red, I make them red.
You did fine. He's just, don't listen to him. All right.
Don't make me nervous.
All right, do we have anything from the planning staff?
No, sir.
Anything from the board? Nothing? Do I have a motion to adjourn? We have, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I just wanted to introduce.
Oh, yeah, come forward, I'm sorry.
Introduce myself. My name is Leslie Ware. I'm a medical practitioner, and I represent the Home Again Foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
They are developers. So it was really good to hear this last bit of conversation that was more relevant. And I wanted to just introduce myself. I believe they are going to be presenting their project proposal that's going to be a land development project adjacent to Wingate University. And I'm also a community health educator, so I know how important it is to understand the lay of the land and to have the involvement and engagement of the community that you're going to possibly be serving. I have been asked to do a market study to better understand what the needs and priorities are of the Wingate community, and just wanted to know what the proper protocol would be to prepare my client when they come before the board next month.
If that's adjacent to the town of to Wingate University, that's likely inside the town.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own separate land use board, so it wouldn't be these guys, but it would be the same type of board for the town of Wingate.
Okay.
The good news is you would deal with the same staff, because we actually handle Wingate's staffing for them, so.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know.
What company was you with again?
Home Again Foundation. It's a kind of a small family development company. They are a nonprofit, and they have been helping veterans with housing. And they're looking to do workforce housing and mixed use for aging in place. And so I'm a veteran, and
Okay,
I've been
awesome.
serving veterans and making sure they get disability benefits and access to housing and supportive services. So it's kind of a full circle, and just want to make sure that this group is adequately prepared to.
I've heard of that organization, y'all do well.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Excellent. Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I
I'm sure
appreciate it.
Bjorn, you guys are gonna hear about this?
That's probably where they need to start, right?
Yeah, they're gonna, yeah. Talk to Bjorn, he's probably your guy. He'll hunt it down for you. I don't know what's going on with Wingate.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I'm sure you all are hungry. I don't know how you all do that. It's just- And I hope those chairs are meant for long sitting.
Yeah, they are. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. All right, we had a motion, right, in a second, so, all,
Nice to
man,
meet you.
Who did the motion do?
who made the motion to adjourn? When there was a second?
Who seconded?
Who said-
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, any opposed?